Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Barakaha Kodash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. In peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the Brother Raya with another video, and in this video, I'll be profiling an article from endoftheamericandream.com titled, Putin warns that the world is going down a road that leads to nuclear path. And Putin is correct. It's biblical prophecy that not only will World War III take place, but that it will go nuclear. This is Revelation chapter 9, verse 12. One woe or destruction is past, speaking of World War I. And behold, there come two woes more hereafter. World War II, which is past, and World War III, which is yet to come, but is coming quickly. And like I just said, it's going to go nuclear. This is Joel chapter 2. I'm going to read verses 1 to 6. Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of Yahweh cometh, for it is nigh at hand. And if you've got that spiritual eye salve, you can see that it is very nigh at hand. All the end time signs and prophecies that Yahweh Shai Hamashiach, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus Christ, told his disciples to look for, to know that the end was nigh and that his second coming was close, are either in the process of taking place or taking place as we speak. A day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong. There hath not been ever the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. And that great people and a strong is referring to nuclear missiles. And where it says there had not been ever the like, that's talking about how these nuclear weapons came about very recently, beginning with those 2 atomic bombs dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima back in 1945 during World War II, that second woe. And where it says neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. When nuclear missiles get fired during World War III, every single nuclear missile is going to be used. And after the dust settles, hey, Yahweh Shai Hamashiach and the 144,000 who are fishers right now, waking up the rest of the elect of the nation of Israel, are going to become those hunters with those spiritual bodies. And we're going to enslave you heathen nations that survive this nuclear World War III. And as you're building up the kingdom of heaven, hey, you're never going to be allowed to build weapons of war anymore. A fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. And that fire that devoureth before them is that warhead, and that flame that burneth behind them is the rocket booster on the back of the missile. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them. The land looks normal. You've got cities and parks, forests, people, animals, life going on regularly. And behind them, a desolate wilderness. After that nuclear missile hits its target and detonates, hey, the land is going to look like a desolate wasteland, like what you see in Fallout or those Mad Max movies. Yeah, and nothing shall escape them. The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen, so shall they run. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of mountains shall they leap, like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array. And the prophet Joel is describing the missiles as horses and horsemen and chariots, because back then, when he saw these visions, he didn't know what a modern day nuclear missile was, so he described it the best way he could, what he knew during his times, ancient weapons of war, like horses and horsemen, chariots, and in other verses, the nuclear missiles are described as arrows, spears, javelins, flying swords, you name it. Before their face, the people shall be much pained. All faces shall gather blackness, or ash, or soot. These people getting burned up by these nuclear missiles. So as we can see from Revelation chapter 9, verse 12, and Joel chapter 2, verses 1 to 6. Not only is World War III biblical, but nuclear destruction is biblical as well. And the two main combatants during this upcoming third woe is going to be Russia and the United States of America. And it's actually going to be Russia that's going to get that first strike off on the United States of America. These days, most people in the Western world give very little thought to what a nuclear war might be like. And that is very strange because we are actually closer to a global nuclear war than we have ever been before. One woe is past, and behold, two woes more come hereafter. If a conflict between Ukraine and Russia erupts, the U.S. and Russia would essentially be in a state of war from that point forward. I do not anticipate that we would immediately be firing nuclear missiles at one another, but it would definitely put us on the verge of such a scenario. Both sides would be in a state of constant alert with their fingers on the triggers, and all it would take is a single mistake to unleash an unthinkable nuclear nightmare. And there are no mistakes. It's all the will of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai to fulfill the prophecies in the scriptures. The Biden administration seems to think that there won't be any serious consequences for endlessly provoking the Russians, but Russian President Vladimir Putin definitely seems to understand what is at stake. Following a very lengthy discussion with French President Emmanuel Macron, Putin issued a very ominous warning to the press. I've been saying it, but I very much want you to finally hear me and to deliver it to your audience in print, TV, and online. Do you understand it or not that if Ukraine joins NATO and attempts to bring Crimea back by military means, the European countries will be automatically pulled into a war conflict with Russia? War with Russia should be something that we try extremely hard to avoid, which is all futile, because once a war with Russia starts, there is a very good chance, an inevitability, that it will eventually go nuclear. Putin says that he does not want such a conflict, and he told the press that there will be no winners if it actually happens. Of course, the military potential of NATO and Russia are incomparable. We understand it. But we also understand that Russia is one of the leading nuclear states, and by some modern components, it even outperforms many, all through the will of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, to build up these Russian Edomites to be able to take down the United States of America in a nuclear conflict. There will be no winners, and you will be pulled into this conflict against your will. And hey, the only winners are going to be the nation of Israel, or you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, because once these heathen nations go to war with each other and all their kingdoms are taken down and Yahweh Shai makes a second coming, that's when the kingdom of heaven is going to be set up, where we're going to rule for eternity over these heathen nations. You won't even have time to blink your eye when you execute Article 5, collective defense of NATO members. Mr. President Macron, of course, doesn't want this, and I don't want it. And I don't want it, which is why he is here, torturing me for 6 hours. But even though Putin believes that there would be no winners in a nuclear war, he has still been preparing the Russians to fight one. Again, all through the will of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, so that these Russians can take down the United States of America during World War III. Now let's get back to these prophecies. This is Jeremiah 50 verse 9. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon, which is the biblical name for the United States of America. It's known as Babylon the Great, the virgin daughter of Babylon, mystery Babylon, as well as spiritual Sodom and Egypt, as pursuant to Revelation 11 verse 8, an assembly of great nations from the north country, which is Russia, because what's north of the United States of America? Canada, that Arctic Ocean region, and then Russia. And Russia's been building up its military capabilities, including nuclear, in that Arctic Ocean region, as well as building up their military arsenal, their nuclear arsenal. And it's a well-known fact that Russia shooting missiles from itself across the Arctic, as well as shooting missiles from its assets in the Arctic to hit the United States of America, would be the shortest trajectory time for those missiles to reach the United States. And that assembly of great nations unto the North Country are not only Russia's allies like China, Iran, and North Korea, but also the United States of America's allies, such as Britain, France, Germany, these other NATO nations, you name it, who are going to turn against her at some point during World War III and ally themselves with that North Country, Russia, to altogether shoot 200 million nuclear missiles onto the United States of America. And if you've been keeping up with current events, you can see that there's a lot of friction between the United States of America and its European allies, not only over this Ukrainian situation, but over a whole host of other situations as well, which I've talked about in 2 previous videos. And they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows, those nuclear missiles, shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. And when those 200 million nuclear missiles hit the United States of America, it's going to turn it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards. And I'm going to close it out in Isaiah chapter 13, verses 17 to 22. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them. Also speaking of the Russians, because besides being known as the North Country in Jeremiah 50, verse 9, Russia is also known as Gog in Ezekiel chapter 38, and the Medes in Isaiah chapter 13, verses 17, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. When it comes time for these nations to push that red button to shoot their nuclear missiles, nothing will stop them from doing so. It's all through the will of Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai to again fulfill prophecy, as it says in Isaiah 55, verse 11. So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please. No peace treaties, nuclear weapons bans, or anything like that will avert this third woe. Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and what a bows shoot? Arrows. So these are the silos and other launch platforms that these missiles are going to be fired from. And they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children. And the only people that are going to make it out of the United States of America when it's hit by these nuclear missiles are the elect in America, the 144,000 and the rest of the righteous 1/3. Everybody else, not only you heathens, but 2/3 of the nation of Israel who are hard-headed and refuse to return unto their power, Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai, are going to become the fuel for this nuclear fire. And Babylon, the United States of America, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. And how did the Most High overthrow ancient Sodom and Gomorrah? With fire and brimstone from the sky. And he's going to overthrow this modern day Sodom and Gomorrah with modern fire and brimstone, those nuclear missiles. And like I said earlier, besides being known as Babylon the Great in the scriptures, the United States of America is also known as spiritual Sodom and Egypt, as pursuant to Revelation 11, verse 8. It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. When these nuclear missiles hit the United States of America, it's going to become that desolate, uninhabitable wasteland where man, woman, or child will never set foot on ever again. And we know that this isn't talking about ancient Babylon in modern day Iraq, because you've still got people dwelling there to this very day, and ancient Babylon wasn't burned completely with fire. And after a time, only desert creatures will dwell in the former United States of America. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures. And owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. And the wild beasts of the island shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces. And her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged. And by reading the articles like that, where Putin's warning of nuclear conflict and just hearing more and more about nuclear war in the news, we know that Babylon's time is very near to come and her days are no longer being prolonged. And the only thing that the United States of America is going to be remembered as after it's destroyed by nuclear fire is an eternal memorial as to what a wicked kingdom looked like, how not to govern the earth, and what the judgment and punishment was for afflicting the apple of the Most High's eye, the children of Israel, who are again the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong, as we can clearly see we're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites, or the so-called white people. So as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.